Oh, what's stress? What's stress? We don't know anything about stress here at Knicks Film School. Just a nice, easy, casual walk in the park Sunday. So nice, so lovely. It's too easy. Why don't they make these things harder, Jeremy? Hello, Jeremy Cohen.
Hello, John. Yeah, I was just looking to feel alive for once.
I don't
get that feeling when I watch Knicks games. It's never.
I don't know that you've come to the right place.
Right, like it's just boring, very low key, chill, and then you have this type of game. This type of ending just never seems to happen for this team. So it was a nice little surprise.
Yeah, look, it's so funny to me at this point. And before we get to the week in review, because this is going to be one of the episodes that wears two hats. We're going to do a post game for today's win against the Pistons, which ended up with a final of, what was it, 117 to 10 something? Whatever. Yep. 104. There you go. So it ended up pulling away at the end. Very nice job. And we're also we can review plus the post game. We're going to do both of those things. But just I want to open by I have to go big picture for a second, which is like you've been watching sports for most of your life. I've been watching sports for most of my life, which is longer than your life by a not inconsiderable degree. And I don't know that I could ever remember a sports season quite like this one in this very specific sense. Expectations were not nothing coming into the year, but they were, the Knicks, Vegas had them as an under 500 team, right? Okay. They did not have a star on the roster. Very notably, they tried to obtain one this summer and did not get one. Okay. So like no reasonable fan at least is out there expecting a win total in the 50s, or even most of us, I don't think we're expecting something close to a 50 win season. Win more games than you lose, look pretty good doing it, play the young players, good job. They've done all of that and more. And like the young players, good. Jalen Brunson, great. Randall, bounce back. And the record is we're the 9th best team in the freaking league by record. And I'm pretty sure after today, probably by net rating, 9th or 10th, whatever it is. And yet there is this not a feeling of dissatisfaction, but I'll just go to the word I always use, which is consternation. I don't know a better word to use. I don't know that I could ever remember something quite like it,
Yeah, I know what you mean. You talking through that reminded me of a Mad Men quote with the Don Draper had, which specifically, what is happiness? It's the moment before you need more happiness. Just in the sense of, because what you're saying is absolutely spot on, John.
That's fantastic.
It's a sort of thing where all these things are going in the right direction. So much of what we as fans, at least the fans who were saying, yeah, like for me, it was just make the play-in game. Just do that. That's great. Everything else it's a stepping season into other things. That's great. But things that a lot of us as fans have wanted are happening, and they're happening well. And it's just great to see where these types of events occur. And yet there still feels like, okay, but there's still room for improvement. And I think that is Tibbs's mindset. I'm not happy unless I'm miserable. And yet it's just like, okay, but look at these types of games, because it's not just beating bad teams and losing to good teams. They're a good team that's beating good teams and destroying bad teams when they can. It certainly seemed that after the first quarter, this was going to be one of those games like the last one against the Pistons in Detroit. Or
they were by 17 after the first, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a little bit letting go of the rope. And so it soon came into that territory of like, this is a warning. We've seen this a few too many times for our liking, but even still, they found that extra gear that they needed, even when the offense just turned to my turn, your turn, which was a little difficult to watch in the second half, but they're doing what they need to do to get the job done. And they're climbing up in the standings. And even if their position is 6th, it's like, okay, again, going into the season, a lot of people had them at 11th, and barring significant things to turn this season around in the opposite direction, that's not going to be on the table. It's not going to be the team that misses out on the play-in tournament. If anything, is this team going to make the top 6 and not have to worry about the play-in tournament?
And that's a good transition, to like people talk about like moving the goalposts, right? And like that being an unfair thing to do. And actually, I'm not sure that is always unfair because like every additional piece of new evidence should get factored into expectations, right? And I think Jalen Brunson, well, I love the signing. You love the signing. I think all of us here at Knicks Film School love the signing. Is he performing at like a 90th percentile outcome? 90 more than a 90th percentile outcome? It's up there. It's very, very high. Julius Randle, in our wildest imaginations, I don't think we expected this good of a bounce back season from him. And there are certainly a few more, and we talk about them all the time. Maybe we'll talk about them today, but like, so I don't think it's unfair to have changed, to have increased expectations and like want to come into a game like this and like go up by 30 in the first half and never look back. And at the same time, it's like the reality of the situation is they are still kind of a workmanlike team. They're still someone that, even though they are scoring a lot, they still kind of, as Fred Katz pointed out in his article at the end of the week, kind of summing up the first half of the season, a team that they don't go on barrages of 3-point shooting, right? They don't run away and hide very easily from other teams. Like that's not really in their DNA. So, I try to take, and let's also, again, just acknowledge the obvious, which is that this was a 1 o'clock matinee game in a city. We were not in Detroit, but I imagine the atmosphere was perhaps not conducive to like getting the old juices flowing if you're coming out of the visiting locker room, whatever. So like, the defense was played at, I thought, like 3/4 speed for much of the first half, which is what allowed the Pistons to stay in the game. And credit to Detroit also. That's the other part of it. Like every team has NBA players, decent guys who could knock down shots. This team, a lot of guys hit some nice threes in the third quarter, especially to keep them in it. So like give credit where credit's due. But yeah, it leaves us in this place where it's like, yeah, we're all happy, but we all want more. It is what it is, right?
Sure. But even still, our expectations can change as long as we remember what the initial expectations were at the same time. Like we can say, hey, based on how this team is doing and their recent track record and everything, especially since the starting lineup was changed, we can believe that this is a team that is actually better than we may have perceived, but still keeping in mind when the initial projection,
yes. Yep.
They're surpassing that. At least that was mine. I can't speak for other people. There are some folks out there who even think that the Knicks are capable of winning 53 games. So it your mileage may vary based on where they're at, but as long as you if you came from a place that was this team's not going to do very much, or it's just going to be a fine season and they're doing this, then we just have to keep it in consideration. That's all.
Yeah. And I think the last part of it, and then we'll move on, is kind of like, yeah, as always, we pay attention. I think whenever you're not competing for a title, you have to pay attention to the process part of it because, I know, I think we're usually on the same page with this, maybe in different ways, but like, you don't want to get too caught up in the results if you feel like the results could actually be holding you back from greater goals and whatnot. And I think I think that's where some of the iffiness comes from. And like how it looks and like it's ISO heavy maybe and the whole thing. I'm not too worried about it. But I just want to acknowledge that is out there. That's all.
Sir.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll lay this episode out before we get too far into it. Jeremy Cohen, you have there's a football team that you follow occasionally?
Yeah, every now and then I focus on a New York football team. Now, it's my understanding that there's only one New York football team. It's the Buffalo Bills. That's not my team. I go to the ones that play in Jersey, but specifically the one that made something called, I think I'm saying this right, playoffs.
Can we get it?
Playoffs?
I know Andrew doesn't have his mic. He doesn't have his usual
but yeah,
setup.
apparently
confirmation
they're in it, which I've heard the other team that resides in Jersey, they were not able to make it. I don't know.
Why am I catching strays?
You're not. Listen, this game for me is beautiful because of the fact that it's gravy, but the Giants are a funny example because, John, as we're just talking about right now, where the expectations for the Giants for me were in the toilet entering this year, and now they're in the playoffs. So if they lose this game, it's still going to be frustrating because the Giants are in the playoffs, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still like, there's a moral victory here even if they lose. Granted, I want them to win the game. I think they can beat the Vikings. It reminds me of the Patriots in the sense of when they played the Pats that Super Bowl year, and like we can hang with them. So I'm hopeful that's the case. But yes, there is a football game. I will be departing at some point to watch that, but my attention is right here until that happens.
Keep talking shit and see if I actually notify you of the time that you told me to.
You know, Andrew, I appreciate that, but there's a beautiful thing called a clock, and I've got it in the upper right-hand corner of my laptop.
So. No. We're not gonna pull chicanery on Jeremy.
Speaking real quick of said team that plays in South Canada called the Buffalo Bills, they're losing 24-20 to the Dolphins right now. So anything can happen in the playoffs. So here's what we're going to do. John, I didn't write down any moments because I was trying to figure out a setup that would work. Do you have a moment of the game?
Yeah, no, I before we do a personal injury report and then just a very quick week in review before we do everything else. Yeah, I have my moment of the game. I think has to be inevitably the one where I can kind of put the, as I just tweeted out, alluding to, I could put the Tums away, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be we're going to get the win. And I think from that perspective, I am going to give it to the Julius Randle 3-pointer with 3:48 to go. It was a step back. We're burying the lead here. Julius Randle had his best game of the season scoring-wise. He was outstanding all game long. It took the Knicks from an 8-point lead to an 11-point lead. The Pacers, Jesus Christ, the Pistons never got within 9 after that, and the Knicks kind of like slowly pulled away from there. So that would be my play of the game in honor of Julius Randle's game in totality. I don't have any other candidates. We're just going to give it to him for today.
We'll go with that then. Is my mic better now?
Yes, now it's much better.
John, Jesus. Jeremy,
I didn't know if that was how we were rolling today.
I also didn't.
Can I just behind the scenes? Hold on, behind the scenes. I jump on and I asked John, "Does my mic sound okay?" Like he's like, "Yeah, it sounds fine." I was like,
"I thought that was the best you could do."
So
again, I was a goalpost
question. I feel just for whatever it's worth. So I'm not at fault here, but I could have. I also, like John, thought you were going to do more.
I take things as they are. I don't move goalposts on people.
Okay, this is the quality. I hope that thank you, Jessica and XJ in the chat, letting me know your mic doesn't sound good, Claudia. I was like, I thought John said it sounded fine. Okay, enough about this. I'll let you guys do an injury report, and then we'll jump into the super chats.
Okay, great. Personal injury report presented by our friends at Weiss and Rosenblum. Thank you very much to Weiss and Rosenblum for sponsoring our personal injury segment. Personal injury attorneys, you could reach them at 212-366-6100 or at weissandrosenblum.com. Veteran attorneys who will get you the results you deserve. And most importantly, they're good attorneys, but almost as importantly, Knicks fan, Barry Weiss, shout out to you. Keeps me entertained with his text messages, disparaging a certain head coach of the New York Knicks on a weekly basis. There you go, Barry. That'll get you some inquiries if everybody out there knows that you're not exactly a big Tips fan. One more time, the law offices of Weiss and Rosenblum, personal injury attorneys, 212-366-6100. Past results do not guarantee future outcomes. Okay, personal injury report is for the first time this season blank, I think. Was it blank at the end of last week? I feel like maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. If anything, I want to transition the personal injury report this week to kind of pointing out that for the first time all year, maybe it was blank when we did it last week, I forget. Neither here nor there, because a situation we have not had at any point this year is one where the Knicks had too many players for the amount of spots that were available to be played by basketball players on the floor because, as you know, Jeremy, you're only allowed to have 5 guys. And all of a sudden, it seems like the Knicks are running into situations where it's like, whoa, we could only pick 5? Who are the 5 that we pick? And the Knicks have 6 starters right now. And that's what happens, I guess, when you're fully healthy. Now, we could talk about, do they have more than 6 players in terms of like guys they actually want out there, period. We'll get into that. But like, I don't know. Is this going to be an issue moving forward? Do we need an injury to fill up the Weiss and Rosenblum injury report? You tell me.
I hope not. I mean, look, there are worse problems to have than the Knicks have too many good players capable of being in the starting lineup. if only the Knicks could be so lucky to keep going. If anything, it's more how can the Knicks solidify the end of their bench. But I think in terms of the injury factor, hopefully the 6 players who are capable of starting are all able to remain healthy and remain in the game, because as of this moment, the Knicks need all 6 of them to be key contributors. And if that's not happening, then it's a little bit too stressful. On top of the stress that we are already feeling just watching this team when they're at full strength.
Well, they go together, right?
They do. Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, the Knicks are also, to some extent, holding themselves back in terms of the players that they want to play. Like everyone is healthy. They could play other players who might give them more minutes, but they're not doing that. Nope. So how are they going to find a way to do that between now and February 9th is the biggest question. But if they get someone who is also starting caliber, who fits right in, and we're talking about a team that has 7 players who are able to, who could potentially be starters, then that only boosts them moving forward for when things actually matter, which would be playoff time. Obviously, you have to get there. That's the key part, but adding someone would certainly boost that.
Well, going back to what you said before in terms of where we were before the season, kind of hoping to make the play-in, play-in berth would be good. Now we're talking about like, well, the 6th seed would certainly seems attainable. That seems like a reasonable goal. Attaining someone to help them get to that position and then dealing with what happens when they get there to maybe potentially push some team in the first round. I think all of that goes together. I just want to make it very clear. I'm not comparing these two teams, but I was looking at the Warriors' vaunted starting 5 the other day and how it's a, whatever the hell it is, a plus 20 something net rating. I mean, they're running roughshod over the rest of the league when they've been out there together, which has not been very much because of injuries. You think forward to the playoffs and you're like, okay, well, what do the Warriors really need around that? And you're like, all right, do they need 7? Do they need like 7.5 guys? And you go through, okay, well, Poole, can you get, 7 minutes a half from like Jonathan Kuminga and Dante DiVincenzo? Transitioning the conversation to the Knicks, say what you will about the Knicks, the starting lineup of the Knicks has played a hell of a lot more than the starting lineup for the Warriors, and their net rating is pretty darn good. I think it's like plus 11 or plus 12 for 100 possessions. It's excellent. So then you start to have the same conversation. Well, how many guys do you really need to get yourself through a full 48 minutes? And it feels like, as you said, right now, there's more meat on it's not where they want it to be. It doesn't sense like it's where they want it to be. So how do they get there? I guess we'll find out at some point.
Great.
Before February 9th, ideally. Okay. We are going to, again, we're doing today a little out of order. Before we get to the super chats, which we're going to get to very soon, my favorite portion of the program, it is the portion of the program where we celebrate all that is good and right in the world during weeks that I win. And that is the predictions portion of the program in which we predict next week's games. Reminder, I predicted 3-1 last week, and I won with the W. We won those predictions with an accurate 3-1 week. I was a little nervous after the Bucks game, but it's okay. Jeremy, you feeling okay?
Oh no, I'm so upset that the Knicks, my favorite basketball team, went 3-1. I'm okay. I'm good.
That's good.
Is that a fair response? What else was I supposed to do? I picked 2-2. They lost the first game, so 4-1. 4-0 would have been out the door. I had to live. You made the right call. I left no meat on the bone.
I hate how humble you are in these things. I want you to get genuinely upset.
But see, that's why I keep doing it, because it only makes you more mad. So even when you win, you're mad.
I'm Tibbs. That's the part.
Yes, yeah.
There you go. That's why I love the guy. Okay, this week, tomorrow, very, very soon, quick turnaround time, less than 24 hours from right now when we are recording this. They play Toronto at home, 3 p.m. game to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On Wednesday, another game against the Wizards, also at home. And then back-to-back games on the road. We go to Atlanta. That is a Friday night game. And then next Sunday, I guess maybe after they didn't win for 7 years there, they could get 2 in a row, potentially. We're going to Toronto. That's a 6 p.m. start next Sunday. I may pull a surprise here. Because again, like last week, I think 3-1 is the probably the chalk pick. Especially with the Raptors. I watched most of the fourth quarter of their game against the Hawks last night, who we also play. Neither team looked good, and I wonder. I don't think the Raptors are making any trades this week, but Van Fleet is we should say is, I believe, questionable for the game tomorrow, so that's potentially notable. I still have a lot of respect for the Raptors, and I still have respect for the Hawks for as poorly as they're playing. Game is in Atlanta. Obviously, the Knicks are one of the best road teams in the entire NBA. I'm thinking of going 2-2, and then have it be a situation where if they go 3-1 or 4-0 and you win, I'm like you this week, right? I'm going to genuinely come on here and I'm going to be happy. And if it's 2-2, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to do it. 2-2.
I think the real curveball would be if I took that and I went 1-3. I'm not doing that. I'm not taking 1-3.
Oh, yes.
But I'm saying, because then it's like, all right, they lost 2 games, but then you're actually anxious. Whereas if they lose 2 games earlier on, it's that's fine. But I'm going to take 3-1. I think 2-2 is the right call. That's what I would have taken.
I thought so.
But with that said, they can just do it. It's not impossible by any stretch. If they've been 3-1 all these times, then why not one more time for old time's sake?
I would love it if we should just say what are they right now? They're, I should know the Knicks record. They're 25-19 or 24-19, 25-19. If they go 2 more games up over 500 and they get to 28-20, I mean, that'd be pretty nice. Not what I would have expected.
No, shut up. No, Andrew, get out of here.
It would also mean that they were a rebound and a couple free throws away from 13-5.
It's gonna be on your tombstone at this point, if they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On that note, I think we did everything. We will, because we usually do a full weekly recap, which we kind of did without going into specifics, but I'm sure we'll touch on, the Pacers game and the Wizards game, as we continue to talk through the show. But let's get to the super chats. Why not? Until Jeremy has to get out of here and root for his beloved Giants. Okay. Yanni Golan starts us off. Hey, John, I must ask you again. Oh, man, we're getting started off with a banger right off the bat. Is Quickly better than RJ? Good win. I don't take them for granted. Monster Julius game. Let's go Knicks. I just want to say, we just talked for 24 minutes almost, and I casually mentioned Julius Randle's name once, and I did say that he had his best scoring game of the season. Can we just pour one out give a giant shout out to Julius Randle? I mean, my God. Monster effort today against the Pistons. I just want to stop right there. I don't want anybody accusing me of some Julius Randle hate, although I guess if they were going to accuse me of that, it's probably too late for it. Jeremy, what say you? You think, just flat out, do you think Quickly's better than RJ right now?
I don't like that you're giving me this question first.
That's what I'm doing.
I'm joking. I'm saying it jokingly. I think that, okay, the way that Emmanuel Quickly is playing right now is certainly better than what RJ Barrett is giving you. I think that RJ Barrett has the body to be able to get further in the NBA if we're talking about where they're panning out. But if we're talking about right now, Quickly's getting it done. I feel like the Knicks can get by without RJ. I think it's harder for them to get by without Quickly. But I'm sure there are more numbers behind that might. I'd need to check in order for me to say it, other than just like a gut feeling of that. But no, it's based on the way that Quickly is playing right now. I think he's played himself into the category of the Knicks really should not consider moving him. And for RJ, it feels more like the Knicks aren't going to move him because of the way that the math works with the salary. But you can understand a world where he's more likely to go. And, obviously you want to trade one that's like, if you're trading one of these players and you're getting a star in return, you're expecting that player to probably be the better player, because that's the other team would rightfully want to ask for the better player. And yet right now it's just like, based on what we are seeing, RJ was very much a shell of himself today. It wasn't a great RJ. I wouldn't have put him in the final 5 either. And I thought that was the right call.
So just some numbers. These are not updated as of today. Today had 17 points on 6 of 13 shooting overall, 3 of 6 from 3, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. As my daughter is asking for some chocolate candy in the background, you give it to her, Sass. It's all good. Everybody gets chocolate today. Last 13 games were quickly before today, averaging 18 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. 47% overall, and then the big number, 36% from 3. That number will go up a little bit. On 7 attempts per game, he had 6 attempts from 3 in this game. He is really knocking it out of the park in terms of the role of like the third starter, alongside 2 guys who are either all-stars or in the all-star conversation. I don't know that you could do much better on both ends of the floor in the position that Quickly is in that role. Is he playing better than RJ right now? I think you phrased it really well. Yes. Is he the better player right now? Might he? I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that. Like, it's all about fit to me, and I think there's a way that both of these players could be excellent on this team. I think the question really comes down to who's a better fit in the starting lineup. That you might have a point. Right now, where RJ's at right now, I think Quickly might be the better fit, and I've gone back and forth on that, just to be clear. Okay. Are we switching up? We're all over the place this week. Okay. Taking a brief break from Super Chats to give out our Cashback Player of the Week presented by Freedom Unlimited. Because we want to give praise where praise is due. I said him already. Julius Randle, second 40-point game of the season. He, it's funny. Just like I thought the Brunson All-Star case was over when Randle went on his run since the end of November. And then Brunson had the last, whatever it is, 3 or 4 games that he's had. And then I thought the Randle All-Star campaign was over. And now Julius comes out with 42 on 24 shots, my Lord, with the 15 rebounds, first 40 and 15 games since Patrick Ewing at some point in the 90s, a long time ago. Easy cashback player of the week for me. A little bit of recency bias, but again, I feel bad that I didn't shout him out enough to start the show. So he's my player of the week.
Yeah, he would have been up there for me. I might have picked Quickly, but I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson. Just on a tear, phenomenal week. And yeah, he's reinvigorated his own All-Star candidacy. And with Tyrese Halliburton going down to injury, I don't know how. I'd be very curious to how that will impact everything. Because if we're talking about games played,
yeah,
I think, and I don't mean this in the sense of like, oh, take like Halliburton and Brunson, like in terms of the comparison, it's more that if Halliburton is going to be perceived as the person who's ahead and he's not able to play in as many games, or if it's as much of a gap, I don't really know. It just would be an interesting thing to see as that plays out. Similar could be said with Durant and Randle, depending on when Durant comes back, if he's able to be back for the All-Star game, which I gather he would, but just don't know until then.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not as worried about the All-Star thing, but I hear you. I think Brunson on balance had the better week. Julius did not have a great week coming into today. I just wanted to give him some love for what was a really dominant game. That who knows? Maybe the Knicks needed it to actually win this one. You never know what the alternative universe is going to hold. Which brings us to a very brief detention segment. Again, you don't like to harp on the negative when it's a 3-in-1 week. But do you want to give out a detention? It's your call.
Yeah, I'll just do it briefly because as I see Andrew puts nobody on the screen, they didn't go undefeated. So I feel like
they didn't go undefeated. No,
we have to, in a week where they go undefeated, we can say nobody. So for this, I'm going to say, we talked about it earlier, but the bench not named Emmanuel Quickly. There's just been a lot of lack of offensive production to the point where it's just putting a lot of stress on the starters and IQ. I mean, like if you go back, there were 2 players, specifically being OB and Deuce, who didn't score at all 3 out of the 4 games. And the 4th game, it was like an OB 3-pointer, I believe. I get it. He's come back from injury. It's just you can't keep extending what you need and resting the players who matter most if you're taxing them because you don't have the bench. And I think that's incumbent upon the front office to go out and get someone that can actually help preserve what the Knicks are trying to do. similar to be said with Tibbs, depending on how he deploys the players that are on the roster and the players themselves. Again, I understand Obi's coming back, but at a certain point, he's got to improve with where he's going. With Deuce, his defense is phenomenal, but if he's giving you so little on the offensive end and his true shooting percentage is as low as it is, then you're also getting hurt on the other end. So it'd be nice to have a little bit more consistency than just the 6 players that we've talked about in terms of the starting 5 and IQ.
The Knicks today in this game had they scored 117 points, which is pretty good. You know, I know it's against the Pistons, but just whatever. 117 points, fine. Players not named Emmanuel quickly on the bench to your detention scored 3 points. Hartenstein had 3 points. McBride had no points in 5. Granted, in 5 minutes, Obi Toppin had no points in 9 minutes on 5. He was 0 for 5 from the field. He has still not found his way back. Since you took all of the logical candidates, I will, less than a week after writing an article praising Tom Thibodeau, I'll have some fun. I'll put Thibodeau in detention this week because you alluded to it. I mean, this team does have many millions of dollars worth of Evan Fournier sitting there on the bench. It has not worked out this year for Evan Fournier. We don't have to go over the reasons, you know, like whether it was the right move to remove him from the rotation at the time. I think they needed a jolt, but then he came back, looked okay, not great, not awful, just kind of okay. You know, if you look at the whole picture, like, is there not a way for that to be your midseason acquisition to kind of give you the jolt that you need? I understand he's not perfect, and like everybody has to own that. The front office has to own that for signing him. Evan Fournier has to own that for like kind of being a shell of himself this year, at least compared to what he was at times last year. But that's also on the coach a little bit. I really do believe that. You know, get the best out of all of your players. That's the first way I judge a coach. And he has, I believe, gotten the best from most of the players on this roster. But that's a notable exception. So just to keep it a buck, I'll put Tibbs in detention. Fair?
It's fair of you.
Fair of me. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's bang out some super chats for as long as you're here, because I want to get your input. We always get some good questions after games. Next up, Kevin Danishevsky. Frustrating game, but 6 games over 500. Randall is a freaking manimal. Manimal. A man who is an animal, I guess. Is that what that is? Yeah. JB is so smooth. IQ showing his stuff. Disappointing efforts from Mitch and RJ. We haven't talked about Mitch. Really weird Mitch game. In that I thought he was dominant early, and I thought he was looking for the ball, and they didn't get him the ball like hardly at all. And then I thought as the game went on, I don't want to say his effort waned, but you felt him a lot less as the game went on. And I don't know, is that more like he wasn't seeing the rock much early and he kind of not checked out, but like wasn't giving it as much? I hope that's not what it is. Even so, you know, blame to spread around. What was your impression of that watching?
Yeah, it was not the best offensive performance. Didn't really assert his dominance in the way I thought he could have when he's matched up with Isaiah Stewart. I usually just feel like it's a more favorable matchup if memory serves. But, you know, I mean, today, I didn't think his defense was lackadaisical. I thought he was fine. It just, like, I thought the steal at the top of the key was great. The way he was active as the shot clock was running down. So, like, you know, defensively, I thought he gave some effort. But this wasn't the strongest game from him in a week that was not particularly strong either. Like, he played well against Indiana, and rightfully so, especially because he didn't have to deal with someone like Miles Turner being there. But yeah, just I wanted a little bit more of him solidifying himself in this game. He just didn't really do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Not what we would expect. Andrew, can't they do more offense besides hand 2 guys the ball? So this is funny. This has been a conversation going on in our KFS Discord for that our patrons are in for like the entirety of the week, and I'll be curious if we see from the person who's been spearheading this argument. I think it really does come down to how they've built this roster. And my answer to this is just me, is that their bread and butter right now is guys who are like good, not ISO scorers, because Randall's like his isolation numbers are not great, but like we've seen what Randall has done on the ball this year. It goes without saying what Jalen Brunson has done on the ball this year. And then you could even slot RJ into that conversation. He drives a lot, offensive rebounds, the whole thing quickly. Like, it's read and react. Like, and if they're going to get single covered, then those guys are going to go to work, and those guys are going to, call their own number a lot, because that's the numbers, the points per shot attempt, the effective field goal percentage, all the numbers say that those are good shots. If you're getting single coverage and you have a shot, if you're Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle, and to a lesser extent some of the other guys, take the shot. So, what they don't have on their team is a whole lot of like gifted passers and like, basketball savants who can just see things. That's not how their roster is built. Am I giving them an easy out here? Because I'm again, this is kind of a Tibbs thing, and I'm always going to be pro Tibbs. So,
yeah, I mean, look, you want to lean on your two best players, and these are two players who are in the All-Star conversation. But it feels like a lot of it is sometimes improvised from how I'm seeing it. Like, it's not that they don't run plays; they do run structured sets. It's just
they do.
It just, in games like today where the offense is maybe stalling a little bit, that there might be something you kind of jolt it. And that's one of the things I love about Grimes' presence. And like, again, we were talking about 2 years ago where Reggie Bullock is just kind of like the quick trigger guy who you give him the ball, he has the green light to shoot it. But you ask him to do any sort of playmaking and he can't do it. Grimes is much better at it. With that said, I thought that what the Pacers were doing earlier this week with how they were blitzing the Knicks, how they were making them frantic, it was the blueprint for how teams can sort of do that. And I think we even saw that a little bit more in the Wizards and the Pistons game. I feel like the scouting report, they did an even more doubling, especially on Randall. Like, it just seems like there's been more attention focused on those who are handling the ball. And I think that if the Knicks are in a position where when the half court offense is a little bit more set, when they don't have to worry about teams being more frantic, that there should be more movement, there should be more opportunities. It just doesn't feel like that happens as much as other teams explore.
Their offense gets stuck in the mud more than you'd like it to. I think we just call it like it is. And could it be better? Sure. Is it, given all of the other things they do very well? And again, you're not going to get to the 9th best record in the league. And Andrew reminded me before, the 8th best net rating in the league without doing a number of things well. This is not a thing that they do well. So from that point, fair. Thanks, Andrew. Matt from Down Under, getting up at 5 a.m. Worth it for the W in the postgame. Well, it was within your right, especially, it's the 5 a.m. on a weekend, right? In Australia. Is it behind or is it
ahead?
It's ahead. Oh, so it's 5 a.m.
It's Monday.
And
it's a weekday now.
So he's wow. And for him to be sticking with us even more, kudos to you. Gold star, not taking a nap before whatever you got to do with the rest of your day. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? Hearing Clyde trash Knox's D gave me flashbacks. Yeah, it was not great. Sometimes it's nice to have reminders of where we've been and where we are now. Salute, fellas. We're 6 games over 500. Who saw this coming? Be happy. I'm happy. You're happy. We're happy. It's a happy time right now. Let's enjoy it. We know when the bottom falls out that it's not pretty, and that hasn't. That seemed like it was close to happening a couple times this season. It hasn't happened. I do want to use this opportunity to just say very, very briefly. This season has been the clearest reminder yet that there is a difference between young players that have intriguing skill sets and flash those skill sets at times, between that and young players who actually grow into players that help your team. And you kind of, and it's obvious now looking back, like comparing Knox to, quickly, let's say, it's two different things.
It is. And I'll say this in terms of everything with the Knicks, we talk about a lot, leaving meat on the bone, but the thing is, the Knicks finished their last game against the Pistons, 4 contests, won all 4 of them, and won them by, I believe, a combined, or by an average score of like 19 points. Obviously there are 2 blowouts that certainly help inflate that, but they took care of business against teams that they needed to take care of. And in a league where we see every week multiple games of really good teams losing to bad teams, they accomplished what they needed to. And that could be the difference at the end of the season between being in the play-in or being in the playoffs.
I would have to go through this, and I don't. It is the most subjective of subjective things, but to that point, I don't know that they're like. Have the Knicks lost a game that they absolutely, under no circumstances, should not have lost?
I mean that.
The Portland game comes to mind.
I'll say this: the Dallas game, they should not have lost.
Oh well, no,
right.
Other than like due to circumstances, but like going into that game before the game started, that was like a game you were looking at. You were like, oh my god, if the Knicks are even in this game, I'll feel great. I'm talking about like before the game started. Nothing comes to my mind
after the Mavs game, the Spurs game after the Mavs game, maybe.
They were hurt. Okay, fine.
But even so, it's like you're looking at a team that's clearly worse, and you're thinking day off in between games, regroup, get back into it, and they just looked slow and flat-footed,
lethargic.
Lethargic, yeah.
So that's the game. I'd be curious to see if any other team in the league has that few instances of like complete letdowns, because someone deserves credit for that. Players, coach, front office, whoever, they're taking care of business, which is important. So yeah, good thing to be happy about. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Next one from Russ Guberman. That's a fantastic name. Another monster game for Orange Julius. I haven't heard that nickname for a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it though. I'm fine with it. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate it. Will Oliver, what's going on, Will? What do you guys foresee with this late game, with the late game lineups going forward? Situational thing, or will RJ be the odd man out? Happy Sunday. Let's go Big Blue. I think we're going to continue to see exactly what we've seen, which is Tibbs is going to play the players who have played the best in that game. And I got very upset after the Pacers game, because I thought that part of the reason that game got a lot closer than it had any right to be was because RJ was in the game and not Quentin Grimes. And lo and behold, guess who's been in the game in the fourth quarter? Well, Grimes was in anyway, but like Quickly was in. It's Quickly and Grimes the last two fourth quarters, because they've played better. And my argument after that game was like, I don't think there should be any sacred cows on this team, but RJ Barrett certainly should not be a sacred cow. And we'll see how that develops moving forward, because he thinks of himself as a guy who should never be taken off the floor in those spots. I'm pretty sure we know that. I hope he's okay with it. I don't know. What say you?
Well, I add one caveat. It's not the best 5 of that game. It's the best 3 in addition to Julius Randle.
Thank you.
And
sorry. Yes. Thank you.
Listen, every player wants to be out there when the game is on the line. So, and as we were talking about, there are 6 players for 5 spots. So unless Mitchell Robinson comes out and you're then not worrying about which one of Quickly, Grimes, and Barrett is not going to be playing, then it's a different story. But Robinson typically does play down the stretch because Tibbs likes that rim protection element.
And that's
I don't think that's, I wouldn't push back on that either. It's just, so it then comes down to 3 guys for 2 spots. And yes, I thought not having Grimes in there for the Pacers game was frustrating, especially since this was RJ's first game back coming off the injury. You've got Grimes, he's playing in a rhythm. He's doing things well. And, Tibbs said, I want to get a look at it. I understand it. It made the game far too interesting for my liking. And that I'm speaking as someone who was there, where I really didn't want to have to be like, oh, all right, a game that was very clearly a win that I was able to witness is now a loss. Didn't work out that way, which is great. It was a win. But that's the key thing. I think it will continue to be situational. But yes, it should not just be RJ doesn't get the same treatment as Randle and Brunson. And I think that's completely fair, because those are 2 players who are in the All-Star conversation, who have a larger body of work, and also who typically, like, they have earned the benefit of the doubt. RJ, it's closer to, you have it tonight? Great, you're playing. You don't really have it tonight? Well, fortunately, we've got someone else who can play in your place.
And let's, just call a spade a spade. What have people been yelling and screaming about for 2.5 years now? Show Emmanuel Quickly the respect that it seems like he deserves. Well, I mean, I think this is what that looks like. So
I would agree.
Yeah. Good stuff, Will. Thank you. R.A. Rawad. Thank you for the generous contribution. Hey, John, sorry to deviate, but how many picks plus Barrett and Obi to get Booker? The question, that's not the way to phrase the question. The way to phrase the question is, would RJ and Obi plus all of the picks that you could throw in there be enough for the Suns to not hang up the phone? And I mean, the fact that I am not saying no outright is, I guess, a good sign. Should I be saying no outright, Jeremy?
I mean, well, no, you shouldn't be saying no outright. I'm curious what else is going in that deal, because money wise and everything.
No,
Like,
well, what is Booker at? Is he like in the 40s already?
First of all, for the record, Booker can't be traded this season. RJ,
I'm
just saying.
Season,
Yes, RJ can't really be traded easily because of the poison pill in the off season. That's then where the money gets closer. It's like the 1 year where that RJ and Obi probably could get you just close enough to Booker before his extension kicks in.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You
I'm not trying to be pedantic. Just generally speaking. Yeah, like if you are the Suns, what reason do you have to move? Let's see, 20. I mean, Booker signed through next season all the way through 2028, I believe. So like you're basically resetting your entire timeline. Is that what you want right at this point? Because you can make that decision later.
I guess maybe you're like, 8-1's out. We're trading Ayton. Let's blow it up, and that's the way we want to go. You could do worse, right, than getting all of New York's picks for the next 7 years. I don't know. Okay, so the answer is depending on where the Suns are at as a franchise. It's probably a conversation. I think that's fair. Thanks for the question. That was interesting. Don't think it's going to happen. Not hold my breath. Jessica, what's going on, Jessica? How you doing? Randall continues to have a wonderful season. He even calmly took responsibility for a foul towards the end. I noticed that. He was like, he raised his hand. He was like, "That's me. That's my bad." That's all we want, right? We don't need a lot. Accountability with a capital A. There you go. I'm glad he didn't get traded. IQ was such a joy to watch. He gets better and better. Yeah, man, the Randall trade. Yes. I'm happy that the Knicks did not listen to idiots. Who would they be? Perhaps in front of a microphone. Hi, everybody. That's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
I knew that was.
I had to. It's a good song.
Yes. No, it is a good song. I thought if you don't take advantage of that opportunity, then I have to. And I'm glad you took advantage of it because it was right there for you.
I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, but I'll say it again because I think it's so funny. Is when I heard the song, I'm like, I love the message of the song because the girl, that she's playing in the song is taking responsibility for her poor actions. It's a song about accountability. That's a wonderful message. And my wife's response was like, "Why do you hate me and think that I screw up our lives and that I am awful?" She's like, inevitably, she thought I was talking about her. Yes. Yes, Andrew. That's an appropriate face. Yeah. My wife has issues. She really does.
Jeremy, do you need to take off? This is a good place to hard reset. So good luck to the G-men today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see how that goes. And Andrew, who are you rooting for, the Bills or the Dolphins, since they're both
So I'm rooting for
rivals.
Buffalo with all the DeMar Hamlin stuff. I don't know what it is. I hate Miami Dolphin fans more. It might have something to do with the Miami Heat, but who knows? So yeah, I'd go that route.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm in the same boat. So cool.
Right.
Gentlemen, to all you listening, watching, thank you so much. And I'll talk soon.
Go Big Blue.
Hold on, Jerry.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
Last thing before you go.
Yes.
Dolores is in the chat.
Oh.
What did she say?
She said she does have issues because she married you.
Oh my God! Wow! No!
Oh no! John, listen.
That.
Just for whatever it's worth, there is a couch here if you need it.
Just
gonna spend a few days. I got you.
Can I shout out my wife who is in our bed with the flu? She's had the flu for the last 2 days almost. So I have not been sleeping in our bed the last 2 nights because I've been sleeping with my older daughter in her bed. Because my wife has turned that into the quarantine zone. No, I love my wife, and I am absolutely at fault for any bad thing that is happening or ever. She is not at any fault.
There you go.
And on that note,
yeah, good luck, Jeremy.
Thank you. See you all.
All right, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. I'm uncomfortable as far as like a producer goes because no headphones, not in my comfortable studio. But I mean, Pastor Claudio's Obi Hive, so
That's all that matters.
we'll make it work. Yes, this is what my brother got him for Christmas, a Best Papa Ever trophy.
Ah, that's very nice.
There you go.
Yes, I am in my usual confines, but my 2 kids are in the back doing something. I don't know. I told my older daughter, you have to babysit Izzy while Daddy's doing the post game. I'll give you some money, and she's like, I want $100.
Oh,
like-
she's. I don't know who taught her that, but she's well on her way.
Yeah, it's not good. And I'm like, and it's funny because she just started like after school piano lessons at her school, and we just got her a keyboard. I'm like, Daddy, we just got you a keyboard that was worth like more than $100. And her response was, I want $100. She didn't blink. I don't know who taught her that.
She's well on her way to negotiating in herself in some good deals in the future. You know.
Yeah.
Before I'll get your wife's scolding comment off the screen.
Maybe you should leave it up for the whole episode.
The whole show. Quick before we go to the rest of the super chats. Stats update. The Knicks are Knicks are now up to 8th in offense. They are by net rating or by per 100 possessions, I should say. They are 8th in offense. Technically 7th. They're tied with Dallas at 114.5.
They were neck and neck, yeah.
In defense, they are still at 10th, but they're 0.1 behind Brooklyn, who has actually taken a bunch of steps back since losing KD. And then net rating wise, the Knicks are 8th in the NBA, a solid 8th. There's a full 1.5 between them and Brooklyn, but there's a couple percentage points behind ahead of Sacramento, who, while Sacramento has the 3rd best offense in the NBA, they have the 26th best defense. I know what I prefer. So.
And again, you just read off season-long numbers. If you look at the numbers with this starting lineup, if you want to, again, the other point that I always go to is after the OKC home game, which felt like a kick in the ass for the organization, where it's like, oh shit, we have to get our shit together. And if you want to go back to the numbers since they went to this rotation, all of those numbers paint them in an even better light. So whether you want to look at season long, since game 13, since the starting lineup, since the rotation, any of them, there's really no running from the fact that this is a good team. This is not fake. This is not fool's gold. This is not smoke and mirrors. Which is why, as fans, we have the feeling of going into a game like this and being like, we should win by 40 points. I know that's how I felt, but it doesn't always work out that way.
To back up your point, since the second OKC game when they went to the starting 5, 3rd in offense, 5th in defense, 3rd in net rating, and then if you want to make it, since we were in attendance for the first OKC game, so that includes the first couple games of that road trip, 6th in offense, which is still great, 5th in offense, which is still great, and 4th in net rating.
So since the how many games have we played right now?
44
minus 13, so that's a span of 31 games, being 5th in net rating. Like, yeah, you can't really fake that. And that's not like, oh, they've played an easy schedule or this. No, you can't fake that. That's legit.
Also tied for 5th in wins. So if you're wondering about these advanced stats and just want to know, is it translating to winning? Yeah, they're 19-12 over that span. The same record as the Cleveland Cavaliers. So
they're a high floor team that we still don't have evidence that they could beat the best of the best, especially when the best of the best are playing well. That's very fair. And again, nobody's going to get on this show and say like, oh, the Knicks are a contender. The Knicks could, win, playoff series and this and that. No, but for where they're supposed to be, as we were talking about before, good stuff. Okay. Let's keep it going. Charlie Boy Third, what's going on? Thank you for the very generous contribution on this Sunday afternoon. Hey, John, great win. Julius Randle is a beast, and I love it. I wish they could incorporate Obi more on offense with that second unit, though. Also, Eric Gordon in place of Deuce would really help that unit a lot, in my opinion. He is not only the name that makes the most sense to me as a target for them, he's the name that, outside of like the OG Anunoby, like bigger name discussion, he makes by far the most sense if you are just focusing on what can help this basketball team and do they want to get better for this season. I'm leaving out the larger organizational questions about whether they should be acquiring a 30 whatever the hell Eric Gordon is year-old veteran player for, a stretch run. That's a different conversation. But just on the court, he switches, he defends well enough. He's obviously very good from three. He can move with the ball. He can serve as your backup point guard. He do all the things this Knicks team needs. So as far as Obi, I don't know. I mean, I wish they could too. It's not a great look. For as much as we will praise them, there are still things that leave a bit to be desired, and that is at or near the top of the list.
What did you think of the Caruso rumors from yesterday?
Yeah, where'd those come from? Did I miss something?
I don't know if it was Yahoo or if it was Fisher or somebody else, but I know that it seemed to be credible that there was the Knicks have had scouts at Bulls games recently to check on Alex Caruso.
Every team in the league, if they're trying to win games, should want Alex Caruso. I think I was asked this after the last game, and I'll say it again. I don't know that Caruso is the guy that would be my ideal fit for the Knicks, because
even to replace Deuce Bennett.
So Caruso's a better defender than Deuce because he might be the best. I mean, talk about a guy. We always have this conversation about best pound for pound defender in the league. I mean, Caruso's right there. That dude just helps you in ways that certainly do not show up on the stat sheet. Even though I think he was first in the league in deflections last year, or certainly near the top. Anyway, but he's not a guy that does a lot with the ball. He's a smart player on offense. He'll facilitate. He's a good facilitator. He's a good cog. And I guess if they're always going to leave two of their big four, I'll call it a big four now, on the floor at the same time, then maybe that's fine. And he hits enough threes. So that was my thought.
It's literally what you're describing. You don't call plays. He's not your backup point guard. He's taking the Deuce minutes.
I'm not. Look, if they got Caruso and they didn't overpay for him, I mean, my God, I'll be dancing in the streets. But I wonder do they need a little bit more juice? And that's why I say Gordon, because Gordon gives you a little bit more juice. Now, there's also such a thing as having too much juice, where there's too many guys on your roster that dominate the ball. And that's a very valid concern. So if you want to tell me Caruso would be a better fit than Gordon, I'll absolutely here for that. Or I am absolutely here for that, to say nothing of the contract, and Caruso's younger too. Gordon's old. And if maybe Caruso's the type of guy who'd be up for an extension at a fair number, if he wants that's a big thing too, because he could be part of your team for the next X number of years. So Delsky. What would our record look like if we started this way? I mean, do the math. I don't know. Would they have a couple more? Well, so the Hawks game is the big one. Because this version of this team does not lose that Hawks game, the 7th game of the year.
There's a lot of games that I don't think this defense would be as bad. That was very bad in first 13 games of the season.
The OKC game we were at, shout out to all of our KFS folk.
The Portland game, I don't think they give up all those points to Simons and Grant,
they had this starting lineup that game, but that's fair. Let's say this. Let's say at least 2 more wins, and with a possibility of 3 or 4 more wins.
I would say at least 4 or 5 more wins, because
Jesus Christ.
Because I think by then they might have worked out some of the issues by the Dallas game, might have worked out some of the issues by the Bulls game. So potentially you got a couple wins there,
So you, hashtag Claudio curse, are gonna sit here and jeez. This is what I just want to make it very clear. What you're saying is that the Knicks started off with this, which, by the way, they were not capable of starting off with this because the Grimes was hurt.
Right.
To make that very clear.
But that's what he's saying is
if they were if this has been if this was the team the whole way, you're basically saying the Knicks would be second in the East. Because
they've played we just read off their numbers.
They have 25 wins. The team that's second in the East is Brooklyn. They have 27 wins. So you're not even saying they'd be first in the East. You say, or second in the East. You say they'd be second in the East by a comfortable margin.
We just read what their numbers are.
I know.
They'd be third. That's the third best record in the East since the last 31 games.
That's wild. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Tied with the. Okay, so technically Philadelphia, it'd be the 4th best record because there's 5 really
No,
good
but
teams
then,
ahead of
look,
the Knicks.
I'm saying 2 to 3. You're saying 4 or 5. Split the difference and let's just say 3. If it's 3, that puts them at 28 and 16. If they're 28 and 16, they are in third, behind I believe a half a game behind Brooklyn, and in a then a half a game up on Milwaukee. That's freaking wild.
I'm not even trying to be like
No, I know
Claudio
you're not.
here,
I know.
Which, by the way, is one game off of the projection. By the way, but I digress.
Thanks, Delcy. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? Too early for concern for Obi? Question mark. IQ needs a lot more help. I'm officially on the train to make a trade to enhance the bench. I'm happy with the win, but the bench play is not sustainable. To be very clear, because I've written a lot of things and I've said a lot of things about what they did 2 seasons ago, and I want to draw a couple distinctions. One, when they made the Derrick Rose trade, they were 11 and 14, and it was Randall and stuff around Randall. There was a monumentally easy pivot if they wanted to go the tanking route, which I think you could argue at that point was the correct move. This is not that. They have a real team here with a lot of components and a lot of good stuff going on. That's number one. Number two, in terms of making a trade to enhance the bench, we always talk about the young players. Okay. At some point, you do need to draw your line between young players that we feel are part of our core moving forward, and then like ones who are not. And they have in Emmanuel Quickley and Quentin Grimes 2 players who very clearly are part of the solution. And then if you want to throw in RJ, who's still technically on his rookie contract, and even if you want to throw in Mitch, who is still young and like he's on the first year of a new deal, like there's a lot of youth here that you could feel good about, like the homegrown aspect of it and like and checking those boxes where you don't have to be like, oh my God, if they, pull the plug on the Deuce experiment this year, that would be an egregious blunder by this organization. Like you kind of, there are shades of gray here. So I'm not going to be like, absolutely not. They cannot make a trade to enhance the bench at the cost of like a young player or a young player's minutes. I think that's valid. And I'm a little concerned about Obi. Josso focused. Hi, J&J. NA. Hashtag 53 win watch. Knicks need to go 28-10 for the rest of the season. Well, according to Andrew, then let's write it down in pen.
Let's not get crazy. More like 25-13 is more in that stretch.
Plausible? I think so. Hashtag better than we hear. Hashtag we back. Hashtag 5 season site. Hashtag a Bronx tale. Ooh.
Oh, that's great.
Like
a Bronx tale.
Can I write that one down? I'm going to write that one down.
I'll
give you credit, though. I'll give you credit, Josso Focus. Thank you.
Well done.
Very well done. Very, very well done. Hamdy M. I'm not happy unless I'm miserable. Please no. I'm just happy. A little worried about Obi, but happily worried. Yeah, it's such a good place to be, to have concerns but still be getting wins. Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. Nothing to add. Dom Cappuccini with another one. I hope RJ is ready to play up against his hometown team tomorrow. Pardon me for being a little worried about our energy for the MLK game after today. I have not looked at the minutes. I'm assuming Brunson played 40 minutes tonight.
Both him and Julius did.
Here's the reason I'm not terribly worried, because they may have been on the court for that amount of time. There was not that many minutes worth of hustling defense played by, I don't think, anyone on the Knicks. Grimes and Quickly for sure. And Deuce for his time that was out there. But like Randall definitely kind of took it easy on defense the first half, locked in when he needed to. And score 42 points, you can kind of have some leeway. I'm not too worried. Jonathan Fazikov. Hey, John, longtime listener of your show. Thank you very much for being a longtime listener. Appreciate the content. My question for you is, do you see this team being a contender without drafting or trading for a superstar player? I wish I could sit here and say yes. They would. I don't like it depends on what your definition of a superstar. We did the exercise on Patreon over the summer, or maybe it was last season. I don't remember. We did it at some point. It was the
During a
off season.
cap or no cap.
During a cap or no
trading
cap.
for superstar.
Impromptu, in which I was caught off guard, where, you know, I made myself clear that I'm of the opinion that there really are only 7 or 8 superstars in the league at any given time. Is it possible to win a for the Knicks to win a championship without getting one of like whatever your top 7 or 8 players in the league are? Yeah, sure. I think it's possible. Do I think it's likely? No, I don't think it's likely. You just have to catch lightning in the bottle, and the chemistry just has to be so good, and it also has to be, I think, kind of it depends on the year. You know, it depends on what else is going on in the league. Like, I'll say this: if there was such a team that was built a little bit differently in this year's NBA, I would not be shocked if that team won a title this year, because this year seems a little bit more wide open than some years. You know?
Yeah.
That would be my
what's exciting is I'm confident there will be playoff basketball to find out, you know.
For sure. That's a good question, John. Dom, what's going on, Dom? Let's go Giants. Jeremy, let's fucking go. See you boys on MLK. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Excited for tomorrow. Man, I'd love to get that win tomorrow. Philip Levin, bench minus quickly accounts for 3 points for the game. Not great, Bob.
Follows up perfectly right here.
I'm going to be that guy, Dom the dentist. Okay. Fournier Deuces minutes. Give Fournier Deuces minutes. The offense he provides has to be at least worth 15 minutes a game to take some pressure off the starters. It's why I asked Benji, when did I ask Benji this? Was it when he was on the pod, or was it, about Malik Beasley's defense? Because I was like, or not Malik Beasley's defense, Malik Beasley, like, as an offensive player, like, how much of an upgrade is there from Fournier? Because, you know, Malik Beasley got mentioned in an Ian Begley report as someone the Knicks had interest in the past. We talked about Malik Beasley, and I'm bringing him up here in response to this comment because it's like, if you're in the market for Malik Beasley, who probably won't cost you at first, but it'll cost you something decent. Like, is he that much better than Fournier to make a difference where you make that sort of trade? Do you not just go back to Fournier and give Fournier a shot? And I don't know if that ship has sailed. Like, it's not crazy at all, Dom. The pushback I'll give, and this is more of a devil's advocate point, is like, Fournier just, like, watching him this year, something was off.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we didn't make that up. We didn't create that in our heads. And I'm not saying he didn't have moments of good defense. He did. But even the offensive end, like, the sum total of it all was just like a guy who's just, it's not there right now for me watching him. I don't think it's crazy, though. I'll say that. I don't think it's crazy. Josso Focus with another one. Things I'm speaking into existence. A young DJ and a young RJ doing what a young Eli did 15 years ago and leading a strong defensive team to the chip.
I'm lost on who RJ is. DJ is Daniel Jones.
Oh, like the Giants and the Knicks are both going to win respective championships.
I'm hoping there's someone whose initials are RJ on the Giants that I'm missing. Otherwise, suggesting both are not.
Let's see how many New York Giants I can name. Daniel Jones, RJ Barrett, or RJ. No, sorry, RJ Barrett. Saquon Barkley. RJ Barrett's not a Giant. Saquon Barkley. My God, you don't even want to know the name that just popped into my mind. He's not a current Giant. No, Lawrence Tynes. Not a current Giant.
He is a guy on Twitter.
Galladay's still on the team, right?
Yes, Kenny Galladay scored his first touchdown last week.
I heard that.
I think Richie James might be who they're talking about.
Who is Richie James?
He's a wide receiver on the Giants. Where's number 80? Victor Cruz's number.
That's 4. There's a Thibodeau on the Giants. I know him.
There is. Kayvon Thibodeau.
I know him. I know who he is. That's it.
Okay.
Got to 5. 4.5.
It's impressive that you get to 5, to be honest. Granted, there's not many Giants of note because that's how well coached this team has been this year with Brian Dable, as they pointed out during the game. Oh, so Josso Focus is saying that he was talking about the Giants and the Knicks.
Oh, that's what. See, I was correct.
So you were right. You were right, and I would counter to Josso Focus that you might want to adjust that to a young IQ or a young QG leading the Knicks to a defense. It was a young Knicks defense to a ship.
I got it, John. Don't let Andrew bully you.
Yes.
Andrew, check your texts. Busy, what's going on? Busy. Was the RJ benching a result of holding a player accountable or evening minutes distribution? Either way, kudos to Tibbs. I think it was just he wanted to close the game with his best guys. I think it was as simple as that. Very not reading any more into it than that. And I hope RJ is cool with it. I mean, RJ played 27 minutes tonight. That's probably what he deserved to play. You know? But yeah, I'm cool with it.
I'm noticing more and more that this is now 2 games in a row that he's gone to quickly over RJ down the stretch. The only reason RJ came back in against Washington is because Mitch fouled out. Yep. So I wonder if this is a thing.
Another one
this week after Busy's second one, we got 5 more.
Awesome. Another one from Busy. He has actively removed reasons for me to complain about him, which I'm sure will make everyone on Discord happy.
Growth.
Busy. I love our conversations on Discord because here's the thing. I've been really thinking about this a lot, like, because Busy, I hope it's okay that I'm paraphrasing you, Busy. You want to see, like, not prettier offense, but like, we know what good offense looks like in the NBA when everybody's moving around and there's, like, real good stuff being run. And a lot of times you watch the Knicks and it doesn't seem like it's that. It's like all the data in the world, you still watch and you still have a gut feeling as a fan who's been watching a sport your whole life when you're like, no, I know something's not quite right with this. So I love the conversation. I really do. And I look forward for it to continue. Fargo Tufo, what's going on? Is it safe for me to turn the game on? Love you, Alex. Thanks for taking one for the team, if you did indeed.
So that bit, that is in reference to something on Discord. Alex was saying that both this game and last game, every time he was doing something else, the Knicks were winning. And anytime he was watching the game, the comeback by the other team was starting.
Yeah.
So we were telling him turn the game off, even when it would get close. We were yelling for him to turn the game off. So shout out to Alex. Shout out to Discord.
Hushu, what's going on, Hush? I like Livers. Can see a Cam trade for him. I'm going to quote the great Andrew Claudio from our awesome pregame show, in which I can't even get this with a straight face. You brought up Cam as a possible trade, a young player to go out along with salary for Bojan Bogdanovic. Because my God, who do you have on the pregame show today?
Sean Corp of Detroit Bad Boys.
Yes, who covers the Pistons excellently. And because he had mentioned, like, I think the Pistons would like to get back maybe like a protected first and a nice 2-way young player. And then after Andrew brought up Cam, his response was, no, I said a 2-way young player, not a no-way young player.
Yeah. Jeez.
Presented with that comment. Anyway, Cam gets a new home on a bad team. We bring in a nice young wing that doesn't need to get into the rotation often. I like Livers again, though, but like, I'm not sure that's moving the needle for you enough if you're the Knicks to like, to make, because Livers is a nice young player, and like the Pistons aren't going to move him unless they have something good worth moving him for. Yeah, so good stuff. Kevin Danishevsky really wanted Alec Burks to go to the Warriors. Slots in perfectly as their backup too. Man, I just called the Warriors my favorites for the title when we recorded our Patreon pod a few days ago. If they got Alec Burks, take all my money to bet them to win the championship. Would love to be a contributor on a Contender. Still such a fantastic player. I freaking love AB. He someone had a nice contest on him in the first half in the corner. I think it was one of the kids, and he just drained it. He's just a really good player. Really good.
Let's really quickly clarify something from the pregame show today. I referenced something with Sean about a potential reunion with the Knicks and Alec Burks. I remembered after the fact because I recorded that yesterday at noon and then edited and had the rest of my Saturday to do. And remembered last night, oh, they can't trade for Alec Burks. There can't be a reunion because it's 1 year since you've traded since you've traded the guy, right?
Are you sure about that?
Doesn't the CBA prohibit you trading for the player that, or what's it called? You can't have a reunion with the player that you just traded, right?
The thing, I'm not so sure about that. I don't say this with 100% conviction, and I could absolutely be wrong. But my recollection of that rule is where, oh my God, was it Stackhouse? Someone got waived, someone got traded to a team, and then got waived immediately. And then
if Burks were to be bought out, he can't then sign with the Knicks.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe you are right.
I could have swore from my understanding of.
You might be right.
My best understanding of some of the cap or no cap stuff you guys talk about is you can't trade a guy to then get him back for like a full year. So
you might be right.
Maybe we're right. Maybe we're wrong. Who knows? I've had multiple people reach out to me and tell me that that's the case. So that was confirmation. I was going to confirm it today. So if you're watching or listening, you know even better than us.
I should know this.
Put it in the comments.
So, Neil, what's going on, Neil? Do you think there's a correlation between quickly receiving a larger role? I'm nodding vigorously, and his uptick in shooting efficiency. What is the value of this IQ? I wrote it this week. I think there are some players for whom increased usage will result in a decrease in efficiency. And it doesn't have to be like a bad thing at all. Like if you look at Jalen Brunson this year, his efficiency is lower than he was with the Mavs, and that's not because he's a worse player. It's just he's taking so many tougher shots and so many more of them, and he doesn't have all the easy looks as a result of playing with Luka Doncic. Like, of course, his efficiency is going to go down. He's continuing to grow as a player, and he's better for all the reasons we don't need to talk about. But I think there are players out there who increase in efficiency when they get more usage, when they get the ball more, when they get in the flow. And I think Quickley is one of those players. I think Quickley needs to have the ball in his hands. I think he's much more effective as a 25 to 30 minute a night guy than a 10 to 15 or even a 15 to 20 minute a night guy. Because, well, I don't know what I think it has to do with a lot of things, but I think Quickley is a guy that needs to get in the flow of the offense. He's not just a guy who's going to stand behind the arc and be a catch and shoot guy. He needs to kind of feel out the game. And I think the more he feels out the game, the better he is. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, but that would be my answer. Mango Man, what's going on? Small contribution to the Macri babysitting fund. Much appreciated. Thank you. Brian, you help me out here, guys. 1 minute I hear could be the 3C talk, and I think Tibbs is very much underappreciated. And the next minute I hear what the record would be without Jalen Brunson. No, that's fair. I think it's possible to praise Tibbs and also give a lot of credit to Jalen Brunson. If you're here's where I'm at. Jalen Brunson's the MVP of the team. He is the player. I mean, at this point, we've had conversations about, is he an all-star? We've had conversations, is he the Knicks' best free agent signing ever or in the last 25 years? Is he, the best Knick point guard since, Walt Frazier or whatever? I think we could start having a conversation about impact on a team. How many players have changed teams in the last, let's say, 10 years and had as big of an impact as Jalen Brunson? Now, there are obvious ones, like anytime LeBron James goes to a new team or anytime like any superstar. But like outside of the superstar division, man, he's going to have to be pretty close to the top of that one. That can be true. And at the same time, if you're asking the question, is Tom Thibodeau an asset to this team or is he holding this team back? I think you could argue still, even acknowledging how great Brunson has been and how important he's been, that Thibodeau has been an asset more than he's been a detriment, which is what I would argue. Equals peace. I guess we're good. I think it's safe to say at this point, as the team's bag seems to keep getting deeper, seems to add better ball movement today. Yeah, there's some good ball movement today. There's also a lot of ISO today. You need both. Like you take what the defense gives you, I think. And I think when guys like Randall and Brunson were calling their own number, I think they were taking what the defense gives them. And when they were moving the ball a little bit more, I think they were taking what the defense gives them. Jessica with another one. The Brandel Brunson duo should be called Brundlefly. Oh man,
That's great. Yeah,
I rewatched that.
By the way.
What?
3 more, by the way. They just rolled in.
I rewatched The Fly. It was definitely within the last year. I don't know why I rewatched it. I think maybe it was they did a Cronenberg episode on Big Pick, and I was going back and revisiting. Brundlefly's great. I like Brundlefly. That's good. David Crockett. Agree or disagree? Hi, David, by the way. Tibbs loves the two-man game because he's happy to trade stagnation for low turnovers. I would add to stagnation certainty and repetition. I think Tibbs is a big believer that the more you execute something, the better you get at it, which is part of why the big knock on him is that he is slow to adjust, because I think he believes that if you do something enough, it will eventually bear fruit. But the low turnover thing definitely helps, for sure. He's a big believer in low turnovers. He said it the day he was hired, his first press conference. Busy with another one. When the bench was good, didn't the bench play fast?
Not last year and the year before.
Not as fast as you'd think. Like, go back and look at the encores. When I think of that, I think of Derrick Rose. Go back and look at the on-court pace for Rose last year or the year before. It's not as high as you'd think. I think they did the same thing the Knicks were doing a lot of earlier this season, which is that, like, when there's an opportunity to push the ball up the court, they would push the ball up the court. But they've been more selective about doing that as this season has gone on, which happens to a lot of teams. Good question, though. And Frank Sound.
There you go.
Oh
no, this wasn't up. There you go.
Yeah, Frank Sound. If Tibbs' system, we need a veteran point guard behind Brunson to run the second unit. We need Mitch insurance too. He's a huge risk. The front office will back Jalen Brunson and Randall before the deadline. Let's go Knicks. The Mitch insurance. I still think that Jericho Sims could be a backup center to Mitchell Robinson, and they could swap out Hartenstein for a guy who's more fitting to be a third center if anybody wants him. I don't know if anybody wants him. As far as a veteran point guard, I mean, it's wild that we're saying this about a team that currently employs Derrick Rose, but I agree with you. I agree with you. They could use that. They could use that little extra juice for sure. And Kevin Danishevsky, update on Randall's all-time Knicks ranking. Jalen Brunson. I'm not prepared to listen. Jalen Brunson, play a full season with the Knicks before I put you on the all-time rankings. As for Randall,
I feel like this requires more than just.
I'm looking up one guy. Can I have one guy that I'm going to look up?
Yeah, one guy you can look up.
And the guy that I'm going to look up is Bill Cartwright. And the reason I'm going to look up Bill Cartwright is Bill Cartwright, I remember very specifically, I ranked, this would be bad if I got my own rankings wrong. I'm fairly certain I ranked him 25th. If it wasn't 25th, it was 20th. But I'm fairly certain it was 25th when I did the top 75 Knicks over the course of last year. Bill Cartwright played 8 seasons with the Knicks. As a rookie, he made the All-Star team. And then as those seasons went on, one of them was only 2 games. So really he played 7 seasons with the Knicks. Like, there were some playoff teams in there. But he was like the best guy on the team maybe once when he averaged 22 a game as a rookie. And then his numbers like gradually went down and he was more of one cog in a middling to bad team that had oftentimes like a mid 3 like this team. Has Julius superseded Bill Cartwright as an all-time Knick? I don't think it's crazy. So like, yeah, I think Randall's in the top 30. And I don't think he's pushing top 20 yet, though. There are some heavy hitters when you get up there. It's weird. There's like, I remember doing those rankings. I was like, man, there's definitely a couple of inflection points. And like somewhere in the 20s, I remember being like, oh, we got to step up in competition now, like somewhere in the 20s. So he's going to be knocking on the door of the top 20 if he keeps this up for another year or two, for sure.
Only because Kevin's been passionately discussing this with me and my DMs this week. He's already ready to put Jalen Brunson ahead of certain players.
I mean,
one potentially that would bother me very much for someone to put them ahead of him.
It's like, man, I don't know how to look. Let's get through one season.
Yes, that's what I said.
One season. But if you want to tell me, like, okay, so just I had Jeremy Lin somewhere in my rankings. I don't know. I don't remember where the hell he was. He's probably in the 60s or something like that. But like Jalen Brunson's already played more games as a Knick than Jeremy Lin, or more meaningful games. So yeah. Anyway,
I said he has to finish third in MVP and make a couple All-NBA teams before I even entertain the Carmelo Anthony conversation, which is what Kevin was hinting at.
No. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's it. I'm going to go back to watching my children who have been watching each other for the last hour and a half. God bless the universe that I believe they both made it out in one piece. Thanks for tuning in to this show. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow Knicks Film School on social at Knicks Film School, SKOOL. We will be back with more fun and games tomorrow with a post-game show. We have pregame tomorrow or no?
Pregame pod, yes.
Pregame pod, yes. Oh, awesome. Even better. And then post-game afterwards. I will see everybody then. Peace out.